My mom, Linda, looked across the dinner table and said, "You'll never be as good as your sister." Forks froze mid-air. My dad, Thomas, nodded like it was gospel. Sophia smirked, swirling her wine, enjoying every second. I felt my chest tighten, heat rising in my face. But instead of shrinking, I pushed back my chair, stood up, and spoke. My words cut through the air, sharper than any knife on that table. The entire room went silent. Even the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed to hold its breath. Before I tell you what happened that night, let me know where you're watching from. In the comments, I read every single one because I know how isolating it feels to be the outsider in your own family. And if you've ever carried that same quiet weight, tap the like button so I know I'm not alone. Don't forget to subscribe because this story only gets more intense from here, and you'll want to hear how it all unfolds. My name is Rachel. I'm 29 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the shadow child in my own family, the invisible one, the one who worked quietly in the background while all the light was directed toward my younger sister, Sophia. It started when we were kids. Sophia was the star, the one who got ribbons for her dance recitals, trophies for her spelling bees, applause at school plays. I was the one who cleaned up the kitchen after Mom's baking sprees, who walked home in the rain when Dad forgot to pick me up from practice. Even then, the pattern was clear. Sophia earned praise for showing up, and I was expected to earn love by carrying weight no one else wanted to hold. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself that being dependable was enough. But a dependable child grows into a dependable adult, and dependable adults get used especially by the people who are supposed to protect them. Sophia got a car for her 16th birthday. It was a shiny silver Honda with a red bow on top. Everyone in the neighborhood came out to admire it. Linda beamed like she'd won the lottery. Thomas slapped Sophia on the back like she was already a CEO. I was 19 then, and my gift was bus fare money and a reminder not to stay out too late after my diner shifts. I still remember standing in the driveway holding a tray of leftover fries from work, watching Sophia squeal as she slid behind the wheel. Nobody noticed me. Nobody asked how I was planning to get home from my night classes. By the time I finished nursing school, I'd gotten used to the silence. I graduated without a party, without balloons, without even flowers. I went straight from the ceremony to my night shift at the hospital. I told myself saving lives would be its own reward, and in many ways it was. But nothing erases the ache of watching your family celebrate someone else's smallest achievements while dismissing your greatest sacrifices. Sophia didn't even have to try. She breezed through college with designer bags on her arm, internships my parents arranged through friends, and a constant stream of "you're destined for greatness" whispered into her ear. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts nights in the ICU, weekends tutoring kids in math to chip away at loans that felt like chains around my ankles. It wasn't just financial, it was emotional too. Every time I came home with good news, it was brushed aside. "That's nice," Rachel Linda would say, already turning to Sophia for the real conversation. Thomas would nod absently, waiting for Sophia's stories about office happy hours or marketing buzzwords he didn't even understand. My accomplishments lived in the margins of their lives, barely noticed before the page turned back to Sophia. But the part that stung the most, I kept giving anyway. I paid bills when the mortgage got tight. I covered utilities when Thomas's hours were cut at work. I sent money for emergencies that always seemed to line up with Sophia's new shoes or vacations. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that families help each other, that one day when I finally couldn't keep standing, they'd notice the weight I'd been carrying. That day never came. The night of Sophia's big celebration dinner proved it. I came straight from a 12-hour ICU shift. My scrubs smelled faintly of bleach and hospital disinfectant, the kind of scent you can never fully wash out. My feet ached from standing. My eyes burned from fluorescent lights and adrenaline crashes. I walked into a dining room that looked like it belonged in a magazine, candles flickering, roasted chicken steaming on platters, polished china plates gleaming under the chandelier. Linda had gone all out. For Sophia. Always for Sophia. The only chair left was the one with the uneven leg, pushed just slightly away from the table like an afterthought. Sophia sat opposite me, glowing in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her hair falling in perfect curls around her face. Thomas hung on her every word as she described her new office perks: free, kombucha standing desks, beanbags in the lounge. I tried to join in, tried to share something that mattered. Today, I helped resuscitate a patient. He made it through surgery because I caught the arrhythmia in time. My voice shook with pride. Linda barely glanced my way. "That's nice, honey. Sophia, tell us about your creative director opportunity." And Thomas, my father, didn't even acknowledge me. He waved his hand like he was brushing away dust. Rachel's still figuring things out. But Sophia's really going places. Their words fell heavier than the fatigue on my body. Still figuring things out, I had a steady job, a career. I was making more than Sophia had ever made. But in their eyes, none of it mattered. In their eyes, success looked like Sophia in a silk dress holding a wine glass. That's when Linda turned toward me fully. Her lips curved into a sneer I'd seen 1,000 times, but the words that left her mouth pierced deeper than they ever had before. "Rachel, you'll never be as good as your sister." The world tilted. The table blurred. My chest tightened like someone had dropped a weight onto it. Sophia didn't even flinch. She smirked, savoring the moment, sipping her wine like it was the sweetest victory. And me, I sat there staring at the half-empty plate in front of me, and for the first time in my life, something inside me broke, but not in the way they expected. The rest of that dinner passed in a haze, every sound muffled like I was underwater. Linda's words echoed in my skull on repeat. "You'll never be as good as your sister." I chewed food that tasted like ash, swallowed laughter and chatter that felt miles away, and forced myself not to cry in front of them. But something shifted in me that night. Something permanent. On the drive home, the city lights blurred past my windshield, and I kept replaying the moment over and over. Thomas nodding like her words were gospel truth. Sophia smirking like she'd won some secret war I never even agreed to fight. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. It wasn't just anger, it was clarity. For years, I had begged silently for scraps of recognition, but all I had gotten was dismissal. For the first time, I asked myself, what if I stopped begging? The thought terrified me. I had built my life around endurance, around surviving the next insult, the next slight, the next reminder that Sophia was better. What would happen if I simply refused to play that part anymore? 2 weeks later, the betrayal deepened. I was on my lunch break at the hospital eating a cold sandwich in the staff lounge when I opened Instagram, and there it was a photo of my entire family in Hawaii. Palm trees swayed in the background, the ocean sparkled like glass, and Linda and Thomas posed with umbrella drinks arms wrapped around Sophia and her boyfriend. My stomach dropped. No one had mentioned a vacation. No one had even hinted at it. I scrolled through picture after picture: sunset walks, beachside dinners, Sophia smiling with her arms flung wide like the world was hers. My world shrank to the size of that phone screen. I called Linda immediately. Her voice was cheerful, almost distracted. "Oh, Rachel, we didn't think you could get time off work. You're always so busy with your shifts." My throat tightened. "You didn't ask," I whispered. "You never even asked." Well, it was kind of last minute. Sophia needed to decompress after starting her new job. "You understand, right?" I hung up before she could say more. My hands shook as I stared at the screen again. Sophia had just captioned another photo. "Family time is the best time." Blessed da Ohana. I wasn't family. Not to them. I was a wallet, a safety net, a shadow. Sophia's text came hours later. "Sorry, thought you knew about Hawaii. You're always working anyway, so we figured you wouldn't want to come. Hope you're not mad." I wasn't mad. I was devastated. And underneath that devastation, something else was growing resolve. The breaking point wasn't just Hawaii. It wasn't even the birthday party that followed, where Linda gave a glowing speech about Sophia's natural talent, while Thomas laughed and told their friends that I was still figuring things out. What broke me was realizing how much of myself I had sacrificed to keep their world spinning. One afternoon, while helping Linda organize her bills, I found them. Sophia's student loan statements all marked paid in full. My hands shook as I flipped through page after page. $45,000 in debt gone. paid off by the same account I'd been depositing money into every month under the illusion I was helping with the mortgage. I confronted Linda the next morning, voice trembling but steady enough to cut through the air. "You've been using my money to pay Sophia's loans." She didn't flinch. She didn't look ashamed. "Sophia needs to focus on her career growth. She can't be weighed down by debt. You have a stable job, Rachel. You can handle your own responsibilities, plus help the family." I laughed then, a bitter, hollow sound that didn't even feel like it belonged to me. "I've been working nights and weekends to pay my own loans while you used my money to clear hers." Linda's eyes hardened. "Don't be selfish. Family helps family. Sophia's success benefits all of us." That's when something inside me snapped completely. For years, I had carried their definition of family on my back like a yoke, telling myself it was love. But in that moment, I understood this wasn't love. This was exploitation, dressed up in the language of loyalty. I walked out of Linda's kitchen and sat in my car, shaking. My phone buzzed with another notification. Sophia had posted a selfie smiling with a caption about gratitude. Gratitude built on my exhaustion. Gratitude paid for with my bloodshot eyes and double shifts. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt furious. And beneath the fury, I felt something sharper, a plan forming. Because if they could rewrite family loyalty to mean Rachel pays while Sophia shines, then I could rewrite the rules too. Quietly, methodically, without a single warning, and they would never see it coming. After that day in Linda's kitchen, something in me rewired. The old Rachel, the one who accepted scraps and called it family, was gone. In her place stood someone new. Someone who no longer needed their approval to survive. I started small, almost invisible. I stopped making the mortgage payment. It felt terrifying, like cutting an oxygen tube, but also liberating. I half expected Thomas to show up at my apartment door, pounding his fist and demanding explanations. Instead, a week passed in silence. Then the phone calls began. Linda's number flashed across my screen first. I ignored it. Then Thomas. Then Sophia. I let each one roll to voicemail. Their voices grew more frantic with every message. "Rachel, the bank called." "What's going on with the mortgage?" Linda's voice was tight sharp with panic. "We need to talk about responsibility," Thomas barked in another. Sophia's text was the most ironic. "Hey, can you fix whatever's wrong? Mom and Dad are stressed." I don't know what's happening. What was happening was simple. The ATM had shut down. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to my desk and pulled out the folder I'd been quietly building for months. Bank statements, deposit receipts, screenshots of transfers. At first, I'd kept them for tax purposes, but now they were something else entirely: evidence. Proof of every dollar siphoned from me to Sophia. Night after my ICU shifts, I sat at my kitchen table under the dim yellow light, organizing papers into neat stacks. The sound of the stapler clicking felt like a battle drum. I highlighted dates, circled amounts, even created a spreadsheet. Mortgage, $2,800 monthly. Sophia's student loans, $650 monthly. Car payment contributions, $400 monthly. Random emergency transfers, $8,200 total. The numbers were staggering. Over $47,000 in 2 years. Nearly $50,000 stolen under the guise of family. As I worked, memories resurfaced, moments I hadn't let myself dwell on before. Linda's offhand comments, "Rachel can handle it, she's the stable one." Thomas's dismissive laugh at family gatherings, "Rachel's just floating for now." Sophia's the one building a future. Even Sophia's oblivious smile when she showed off her new car, never once wondering where the money came from. Every page I organized was like lifting a veil. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining the imbalance. It was real, documented in black and white. At the hospital, Caroline noticed the change in me. She was the charge nurse on my floor, a woman with decades of experience and no patience for nonsense. One night, as we sat in the break room sipping bad vending machine coffee, she studied me. "You've been quiet lately." "Not tired, different." "What's going on?" I hesitated, then poured everything out. The money, the favoritism, the loans, the Hawaii trip. Every detail spilled out like I'd been holding my breath for years. Caroline listened, arms folded, eyes sharp. When I finished, she leaned forward. Rachel, this isn't family support. This is financial abuse. They're bleeding you dry. Hearing the words out loud felt like both a wound and a bandage. Abuse. The thing I hadn't dared to call it. Caroline helped me run the math, checking my spreadsheets, confirming the totals. You've been funding her life while drowning in your own debt. They made you believe that was normal. She shook her head. It's not. You need to protect yourself. Protect myself, the phrase echoed. It felt almost radical after years of protecting everyone else. Could I finally claim that right for me? I started making small changes. Quiet ones they wouldn't notice right away. I redirected my paycheck into a new account, one my parents didn't know existed. I set up automatic transfers into savings labeled Freedom Fund. I stopped answering every call, every guilt-laden message. The silence was deafening. Without my money flowing in, cracks appeared fast. Linda's tone shifted from commanding to pleading. Thomas left longer voicemails trying to guilt me with phrases like family obligations and don't tear us apart. Sophia, predictably, was the most clueless. Mom says the mortgage is behind. Can you just fix it? You're the responsible one. Responsible. The word that had shackled me for years now felt like a weapon I could finally put down. At night, I sat in my apartment with the folder spread across my table, imagining the moment I'd lay it all bare. The dinner table reversed. The spotlight turned. I didn't need to scream or beg. The truth in black ink and neat columns would be louder than any words I could say. And as I prepared in silence, I realized something else. Their world was fragile. All it took was my absence for it to begin collapsing. I had been the invisible beam holding up the house. Without me, the roof was caving in. The thought didn't make me sad. It made me smile just slightly for the first time in a long time, because for once, I wasn't the one breaking. They were. The storm hit faster than I expected. Once my absence in the family finances became undeniable, the guilt campaign began in earnest. Linda called first, her voice syrupy sweet in the beginning. Rachel, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding with the bank. Just clear it up, okay? Families don't let each other drown. I let the voicemail sit unanswered. The next message wasn't sweet at all. Rachel, this isn't funny. You're putting us all in jeopardy. Do you want us to lose the house after everything we've done for you, everything they'd done for me? I laughed bitterly in my kitchen, staring at the piles of evidence that proved the opposite. Then Thomas chimed in. His first voicemail was commanding Rachel, this is your responsibility. Don't embarrass us by letting outsiders think we can't manage our own bills. His second was angrier. You're tearing this family apart. Do you want Sophia to suffer because of your selfishness? That word again, selfish. It was their favorite weapon. But for the first time, it bounced off me like a dull arrow against armor. Sophia's texts came next, a rapid-fire stream of confusion and entitlement. Mom says the bank is threatening foreclosure. Is that true? Can you please just pay it this month? I'll make it up to you. Why are you being like this? You've always helped before. The irony of her last message almost made me choke. I had always helped before, and that was exactly the problem. Days stretched into weeks, and the messages didn't stop. They evolved. When the guilt didn't work, Linda switched to pity. Rachel, I'm so stressed I can't sleep. I'm worried sick about your father's health with all this financial strain. You don't want him to have a heart attack, do you? When pity didn't work, Thomas went public. I started hearing from distant relatives, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. One called me at the hospital during my break. Rachel, your parents say you've abandoned them. Is it true? After all they sacrificed for you sacrificed. The word twisted like a knife. Their version of sacrifice was using my paycheck to erase Sophia's debts while dismissing my existence. Now they were rewriting the narrative to make me the villain. Even church friends of my parents began reaching out on social media. Family is everything. Don't let bitterness poison yours. Linda had been busy spreading her version of the story the dutiful parents betrayed by the ungrateful daughter. For a moment, their tactics worked. I felt the old guilt creep in, the urge to fix everything to make the noise stop. But then I'd open my folder, flip through the pages, and remind myself these were not stories, these were facts. Numbers don't lie. Caroline noticed the weight I was carrying. One night after we finished a brutal shift, she caught me scrolling through yet another round of angry messages. She took the phone gently from my hands and said, "Rachel, abusers always rewrite history when they lose control. Don't let them drag you back with their version." Her words grounded me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was simply refusing to bleed out for people who mistook my veins for an endless bank account. Still, the escalation didn't stop. Sophia showed up at my apartment unannounced one Saturday morning, her eyes red from crying. She clutched her designer purse like it was a lifeline. "Rachel, please. Mom and Dad are falling apart. The bank is serious. I can't plan my wedding like this. Can't you just cover things until I get promoted?" Her voice cracked, but there was something off in her tone. It wasn't just fear, it was expectation. She wasn't asking, she was assuming I would fold as always. I stepped aside, letting her stand in my doorway, but not inviting her in. "Sophia, do you even know where the mortgage money has been coming from for the past 2 years?" She blinked, confused. Mom and Dad, obviously. They said I cut her off. They said a lot of things. My chest burned with the effort of staying calm. "Go home, Sophia. We'll talk at dinner next week. I'll bring the paperwork." Her face paled. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. For the first time, she looked genuinely unsure. When she left, I sank onto my couch, shaking. That had been the closest I'd ever come to revealing the truth. But it wasn't time yet, not until all the pieces were in place. The days leading up to that dinner were a war zone. Linda left voicemails alternating between rage and tears. Thomas's texts grew shorter, sharper. "You'll regret this. Don't destroy your sister's future out of spite. We raised you better than this." Each message was proof of their desperation. Without me, their carefully built illusion was crumbling. And I realized something crucial: the power dynamic had shifted. For years, I had been the weak one, the invisible one, the daughter who bent until she nearly broke. But now, with one quiet decision, the decision to stop paying, I had flipped the script. They could smear me, guilt me, beg me. But none of it mattered. Because the truth was coming, and when it landed, it would be louder than all their lies combined. I didn't need to fight their war with words. My silence was enough. And my silence was killing them. The night of the family dinner felt almost ceremonial. Linda had called earlier in the week, her voice unusually bright. "We'll cook your favorites, Rachel. Let's just talk things out as a family." My stomach twisted at her choice of words. Favorites. I doubted she even remembered what my favorite meal was. Still, when I arrived Saturday evening, the dining room was laid out as if for a holiday. The good china-polished silver candles flickering. Thomas poured wine with the air of a man about to preside over a lecture. Sophia's diamond engagement ring sparkled under the chandelier, her face glowing with the smug certainty that I was about to be scolded into compliance. I slid into the wobbly chair, the same one that had always been mine, the seat of the invisible daughter. But this time, my bag sat heavy in my lap, and inside it the folder weighed more than any stone. Dinner passed in forced pleasantries until Thomas cleared his throat. "Rachel, we need to address your behavior. The mortgage is behind. The family is suffering because of your emotional crisis." Linda nodded, her smile thin as glass. "This family depends on you, Rachel. You can't just stop supporting us because you're upset. Sophia has her wedding to plan, her career to build. We all need to make sacrifices for her future." Sophia reached across the table, her voice sticky sweet. "I know you're stressed, Rachel, but you're the strong one. You'll come through for us like always, right?" Then it happened. Linda leaned back, her lips curling into that familiar sneer, and she repeated the words that had haunted me for months. "Rachel, you'll never be as good as your sister." The air crystallized. The grandfather clock ticked once, twice. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady as I pushed back my chair and stood. "Then ask Sophia to pay your bills." The words cracked through the air like thunder. Forks clattered. Sophia froze mid-smile, her hand trembling on her wine glass. Slowly, I reached into my bag and pulled out the thick folder. With deliberate calm, I spread the papers across the table one by one: bank statements, receipts, highlighted transfers. Each page landed with a soft thud that echoed louder than any shout. I've paid $47,000 to this family over the past 2 years, I said, my voice steady. Not just the mortgage. Sophia's student loans, her car payments, even her credit cards when she overspent. Thomas grabbed a statement, his eyes darting across the numbers, his face drained of color. Linda reached for another, her fingers trembling. Sophia stared down at a page with her name scrawled in the memo line: loan payment, $650. Her lips parted, her voice a whisper. I thought you were helping me. Mom and Dad said. They lied, I said simply. They wanted you to believe you were the successful one, untouched by struggle. But every freedom you've had, every vacation, every debt erased was built on my paycheck. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. She shook her head almost violently. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, I replied. Because if you knew, the illusion would break. And that illusion is the only thing they've ever truly cared about. Thomas sputtered. Rachel, we can explain. I held up my hand. No. You can't explain away 2 years of lies. You can't explain why you used my money while telling me I'd never measure up. You can't explain why you raised your glass to celebrate Sophia while erasing me. Silence fell heavy over the table. Sophia cried quietly, her engagement ring glittering like a cruel joke. Linda's mouth opened closed, but no words came. I gathered the documents back into my folder, the sound of the papers sliding together louder than their silence. The mortgage payment stops now. Sophia can be as good as she wants with her own money. For a moment, no one breathed. The only sound was the hollow tick of the clock echoing like a countdown. Then I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I left them in their perfect dining room, surrounded by candles and lies, staring at the truth they could no longer deny. And as I stepped into the night air, a strange calm washed over me. For the first time, their silence didn't wound me, it freed me. Because I had finally realized something vital: they hadn't lost their responsible daughter. They had lost their anchor. And when the anchor is gone, the whole ship begins to sink. When I left that night, I didn't look back. My footsteps echoed on the porch, each one lighter than the last. For years, I had carried their weight like it was my duty, but as I walked away, I realized that the only duty I'd ever had was to myself. The days that followed felt surreal. My phone still buzzed, but I stopped listening. Linda's messages swung wildly between pleading and fury. You can't abandon us, Rachel, one moment. Then you're cruel. You're destroying this family the next. Thomas tried to shame me, his voice sharp with anger. Your sister's wedding is falling apart because of you. Do you want her to suffer? But the truth was, I no longer wanted to carry their suffering. I had been carrying it alone for years while they called me selfish. Sophia sent fewer messages, each one shorter, smaller. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I almost believed her. But sorry couldn't repay what I had lost: my time, my money, my faith in the people who should have lifted me up instead of tearing me down. Within months, the consequences rolled in. Without my support, the mortgage went unpaid. The house that had once been the shrine to Sophia's victories fell into foreclosure. The family dinners stopped. The laughter, the charades, the golden girl glow gone. Sophia's engagement cracked under the weight of reality. Her fiancé left unable to stomach the financial chaos that came when the truth surfaced. For the first time, Sophia had to stand on her own. And me, I was already gone. I accepted a position in another city working as a nurse practitioner. My income rose, but more importantly, so did my sense of worth. My colleagues respected me, valued my skills, and saw me as more than the shadow of someone else's success. Caroline hugged me the day I handed in my transfer papers, whispering, "Proud of you. You finally chose you." In my new apartment, surrounded by quiet and sunlight streaming through clean windows, I started to breathe again. No more emergency calls begging for help. No more guilt tripping. No more erasure. Just me, my work, and the people who truly valued what I had to give. And here's the truth I learned in all of it. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop paying for someone else's dream and start investing in your own. I used to think love was sacrifice, but love without respect is just exploitation. I used to think family was forever, but family that feeds on your silence doesn't deserve to stay. They lost me that night at the dinner table, and they'll never get me back. And for the first time, that loss doesn't hurt, it heals. Because walking away wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning. If you've ever been the one holding everything together while being treated like you were nothing, know this: you are not alone. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. Let me know where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own self-worth, I want to hear how you found your strength. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about revenge, they're about finally learning how to walk away.